Greetings. Wagwan, as we'd say in Jamaica. My name is Chad Nehemiah. You can find me Mass Chad on GitHub. And just going to be talking a bit about the state of js-libp2p in the browser and in mobile. So here's a browser story. And by the way, I hope you'll humor me with my reggae references in the subtitles here. These are all stuff you can Google if you want to look up some songs. But essentially, as you can see on the left here, libp2p supports a variety of transports in the browser, namely WebSockets, Web Transports, and WebRTC. You can see that libp2p TCP and libp2p Quick are actually not supported in the browser, and that's just really because the browser doesn't support raw TCP and Quick connections. So one of the nice things about WebRTC is that obviously it provides a lot of hole punching capabilities for anybody who is familiar with WebRTC. I mean, not traversal in and of itself is a mess. So, you know, how we've accomplished that with libp2p is through direct connection through upgrade. That's decutter, and also our circuit relay, which is we had a V1, now we're at circuit relay V2. And then we also have web transports, which is particularly useful in comparison to WebSockets, because we can circumvent this whole certificate requirements on a centralized entity, which Daniel had mentioned earlier in his universal connectivity talk. So that's really useful in a P2P setting. And obviously at 3 round-trip handshakes relative to WebSocket 6 round-trip handshakes, it's much faster and can even be reduced even further. So there's room for optimization via parallelization. So that would be an interesting area to look into for the future. So what's the browser story so far? I mentioned the transports. In particular, the last month, as you can see at the end of the graph, there's been a huge uptick in downloads. This is our NPM graph. I don't know how clear it is on the screen, but essentially, WebRTC is the blue one, WebSockets is red, and Web Transport's in purple. So I didn't look into why that has been so, but it's great to see that increase. I hope it, becomes an asymptote and just rises up to the moon. So I put eat what you grow what you eat. This is in common parlance, dog feeding, but I don't really like the taste of dog food, at least from the last time I tried it. So I don't use that term as much. But essentially, as Daniel had mentioned earlier, this lovely team effort, which was universal even on a social level to get people together, showcase the different implementations of these different transports interacting. But what actually it helped us with was actually uncovering a lot of these issues with WebRTC. So for instance, we discovered that there were some particularities around using it with Gossip Sub. I think, was it Joel had mentioned some of this earlier in his talk, but different things around even just issues we would have never anticipated, like identify running on transient connections and other connectivity issues around WebRTC in general, which isn't that uncommon as I've begun to learn actually digging through the history of WebRTC. We kept creating a lot of web transport sessions, and I'm going to talk about later why that was so. And also connection management issues or peer management issues. So universal connectivity was really great in just kind of revealing those stuff onto us. So it's not been an easy road. There's been so many different issues that we're actually showing earlier here. This was just, a lot of these were even just at the spec level, these GitHub issues that have jumbled up, but there was a lot more in the implementation as well. And so something that started off even what we may have thought would have been relatively straightforward in terms of implementation of WebRTC, we realized after having done the spec that we had to go back and make a number of amendments to that. So that was also quite a challenge. And so I think we began to realize the fallibility of browsers. I think when I started web development, every time I'd get an issue, I knew, or what I thought for sure it was, it's not a bug in Chrome, it's not a bug in Firefox. But we realize that's not the case, as you can see here. So even in terms of the development of these transports actually helped us, and this is kind of how open source works anyways, feed into the development of these browsers. In this particular case, Web Transport was opening a number of sessions on Google Chrome, and they weren't actually closing those sessions, so we filed a bug here. And in the case of Firefox, it's just not even fully supported. So there is capacity for persons who are interested to actually even open up that to make a patch to, in this case, support server certificate hashes, which we would need for our web transport implementation to work on Firefox. I think other people have spoken about this, that there is no quick support on Node. There's a number of ways to go about doing that. But again, it's another opportunity for other teams to collaborate with us to make that a possibility. This is actually a video here, but I'm not sure. Oh yeah, it is working here. Of just the web transport bug that I had mentioned earlier. So this tool was actually built by Alex Aching Brain, and it kind of illustrates how many sessions are being opened up on web transport. It's not, I don't know if you can see the numbers here so clearly, but essentially all of these sessions were being opened up, and then these are the ones that were actually being closed. So you can see there's actually a huge disparity between those two graphs as they progress. So, that was a lot of the bad stuff, or a lot of the bugs, not so much the exciting stuff. But clearly our work was cut out for us. And so what's the situation now? Well, we have around 3,214 IPFS pairs that are running web transport, as opposed to 1830 as we've been resolving these bugs. So clearly people have been upgrading to web transport and finding it useful, which is good for us. I have to big up Dennis for these stats. This is from Probe Labs. So, that it's good to see that adaptation as well. And also, we used to have, so these are some of the tests that come from test plans as well. I believe Steve had mentioned earlier in his talk some of the interoperability tooling that we've worked on. So, this essentially just spins up all of the transports across the implementations and runs, in this case, just a basic ping test, but it could be extended to a variety of other tests and runs them across of the repos. So it's good to see that green there. This is for WebRTC, and this is actually just today. We re-enabled them just today. That PR actually hasn't been merged yet, but it's all green, so it should be getting merged pretty soon. So it's good to see that WebRTC being green across all of the different, over here on the matrices is actually the different browser and implementations. So this is Chrome, js-libp2p, this is Firefox, js-libp2p for WebRTC, and then of course this is Go, because right now only Go supports web transport, and then JS connecting to Go on web transport as well. So we're hoping to see a lot more green as the other implementations begin to support WebRTC and web transport respectively. So yeah, that has been kind of the browser story thus far. So lots of trials and tribulations, but also a lot of fixes and improvements, and hopefully adaptation we see is growing in the case of web transport. It would be interesting for me for us to get more stats on WebRTC, but I think it's a little bit different because of the support from the other implementations for WebRTC. So that would be something to look out for in the future. But mobile story now. So I don't know if you can see the date here, but this is from 2020. I think mobile has been an ongoing discussion, particularly in the JS realm, because most mobile applications that are being developed around JS are using React Native, and so that was kind of the default or the preferred framework to utilize for doing this. But one thing that we realized is, or at least that I realized in taking this up, is that I'm definitely not the first person to try this, and there's a lot of different issues that I would and then subsequently did come across. So really the major thing right now is that there is a lot of polyfilling to do around the different browser transports, in particular the crypto API. I was really hoping to have a demo working today, but unfortunately that wasn't possible. But some of the major things that I think I would like to address going forward in the coming months is just really to make the developer experience a lot better. I mean, local development for this is really a pain just because of a lot of the different transpiling that happens. So, just working with Babel and that type of thing. A lot of just configuration. And of course, if somebody's just going to install a libp2p dependency and then have to go through all of that, I don't think that they would really entertain it for much more than a day. So, we'd also like to have minimal configuration when people are working with React Native so that you can just install that dependency and it just works. And another big thing is to work around how we're dealing with secure context requirements. I'd mentioned that earlier when I was talking about TCP and Quick for Node. So establishing that for React Native. So yeah, let's get together. Obviously this is an open source initiative, so we need as much collaboration as possible. So simple thing, just like running a WebRTC node, so we can get those stats through ProLab to see how we're performing out in the wild. Doug gave a great talk about doing this with Wasm and Rust. Whatever language is your choice, I think it's becoming more and more enabled. WebRTC is coming in Go libp2p, big up Sukun. And if you don't want to go just to the implementation level, play around with universal connectivity, spin it up on dap node or something. And if not that, just hit us up on Matrix or Slack here. I drop the links in these, and feel free also to head over to the discussion section of our repos, whereas that's a bit where things are happening now. And then okay. Russell just merged it. Woo! Oh, Alex just merged it. Sorry, Aching Brain, Alex. I have to a big kudos to Alex Aching Brain for a lot of the work that he has done here as well, of course. I'm sure anybody who interacts with js-libp2p will see the legendary Aching Brain. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks. Any questions?
Thanks for the presentation. Sure. On mobile, so I'm sort of new to libp2p, especially on mobile. If I have two mobile phones on separate carrier NAT, like they're just roaming around the world, and they join CAD DHT, but they keep going online and offline, do I need to do something specific to keep something like PubSub or Gossip to like work over time, or is that just gonna like automatically happen with like the kind of like demo stuff you guys have up with like the JS peer in universal connectivity? If you run that on two mobile phones and they like browse all over the world, will it still work, or does something need to change? I'm just curious how that works, if that changes.
Yeah, so just the universal connectivity app itself, I think that's different than the mobile case I'm talking about here. So I'm speaking specifically to React Native, which is native, so to speak, mobile development, meaning that it transpiles down to Kotlin in the case of Android or Objective-C in the case of iOS. But if you're talking about using the browser on a mobile device itself, right, you're still using our js-libp2p browser transports, and so that would be dependent on the implementation here. In the case of Kademlia, I mean, once you're running Kademlia, you should be in those buckets, and so you'll be discovered. And so I think you should be able to still make a connection at that point, depending obviously on a variety of other factors. In the case of WebRTC, we found it's most effective when it comes to hole punching.
Okay, and then the second question for Kotlin, is that like under, like who, it seems like it's getting less love than the other languages, which it's the best of them all. So like, there's someone specific working on it, or is that under the React Native project that you're doing?
No, the Kotlin implementation is actually separate. I believe it's done by someone named Erwin. Just another open source contributor as well. But I can't speak to the state of that project. But as I said, feel free to jump on the Slack. I know that he's active on the Slack, and you could definitely ask him some questions, or obviously just go onto the repo itself and make an issue or discussion.
Thank you, Chad. Good stuff. Let's give a clap for Chad, please.